the silence is indeed deafening for African leaders not to say anything to their own people, right? You can say maybe they need to make a statement to the U.S. government, or make a statement to the WHO, or make a statement to the international bodies, or whoever, right? But it seems to me that the fact that they're not even making a statement to their own people has a lot more to say about how they feel about healthcare being a priority, the health of their own people, the devastation that the aid is going to matter. Just the fact that they're not even addressing their own people, not to talk about the international community, I believe says a lot, right?
Yeah, I would agree. And I say that's what I feel like. It's an acknowledgement that we've been very dependent in spite of our public posturing about sovereignty and independence, or that actually our governments don't care at all, and they know that
Yeah.
they can keep quiet and there are no consequences, and they'll just keep on business as usual. And that's part of the sad thing, that any consequences, you see, it's unlikely that there will be such publicly noticeable death and suffering. Death happens in silence. The death of poor people happens in silence. Poor people die all the time without, it's only their close relatives and neighbors that notice that the poor person has died. So if in one village they were losing 3 people in a year and they lose 7, that's more than double. But that will not register. That's the problem. And politicians know that the consequences, however terrible they are, even though it's a doubling of mortality from, I don't know, HIV, whatever it is, can still be unnoticeable by the public, and life will go on and they can get away with it. So that's part of the thing that I think they are hoping that this will happen. There will be narratives, ARV is out of stock, people are doing this and the other. There will be studies which come 3 years later talking about maybe an increase in mortality. Maybe there will be a new government by then. So who cares? Yeah. So I don't think we have accountable enough leaders for them to care about what even their own population think. And I think that's one thing which has been, I would say, encouraging from all this. The voices from the African continent have almost been unanimous, seeing this as an opportunity to rethink global health, to rethink health systems. It's actually quite surprising and very encouraging to see that. And we are trying to compile them actually so that we have everything that we can find in one spot, and come up with what are those emerging themes. And I've looked around, I've checked, media, whether it's international media or I don't know, whatever media in other parts of the world, whether it's on LinkedIn, people are putting statements, whether it's on blogs. I've really, every opinion I've come across, every post I've come across, every position I've come across is almost unanimous. And I think that's a great thing, that the public health leaders who are not in government and who have decided they want to speak are speaking with one voice, that this is an opportunity. It's a crisis. And in a way, it's almost like saying, if we cry about it, all this and what, it's unlikely that Trump is going to listen to any African voice about how this is a terrible decision. So rather than keep on crying about it, you can say, okay, the horses have bolted. So how do we bring some of them back? And I think what we need right now is a bit more concreteness, not just from speaking, but trying to sing some actions about what does this mean for the continent, and how can we support a rebirth, I would say, a rebirth of health systems on the African continent. And of course, this does not mean that, everybody's leaving. There are donors and funders who are still there. But I think it's important for us to say loudly and clearly that, yes, you're still staying around, but let's do business differently. Maybe not 2025, but 2026, 2027. We need to see like some shifts in how donors engage with African governments, how they fund, what they fund, who they fund. And really, there are things which are like non-negotiables. We need to start seeing like efficiency put into all these discussions. You want to see things like sustainability. We want to hear transitions of things. You see, I don't know whether there's a fear that if you solve HIV, then you'll become irrelevant. I'm sure if you solve HIV, there will be cervical cancer. You can deal with cervical cancer. By the time you're done, I'm sure there will be brain cancer or something. So it's impossible to solve all problems. But let's solve some problems and put them aside and then solve others, and not try to solve problems for eternity. So I think that's the thing. Like would want to see, would hope that the remaining development partners or donors are paying attention, and that all these opinions are not going to naught, but that we're also meeting people halfway and being constructive about the future that we see and the future that we want. So that's my hope. And then of course we have our government, that they're also going to step up and do things differently, but also demand different from development partners.